What is up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Apologize for my voice. Definitely shot. I'm pretty sure I'm either sick or losing my voice from screaming at kids this week. But in any case, the show must go on. And so we're doing another podcast episode. And I have an exciting one for you today. We actually interview a past student of our course that recently passed his FE exam. It was quite a challenge. Moved here to the United States at 10 years old, and I got into the technical field of civil engineering and was able to work his way into passing the difficult FE exam and is now working towards his. And I think a lot of people can relate with his story. He's got a lot of good tips in here that are applicable to anyone taking their FE or their PE exam. And but he currently works for the USDA out of Rhode Island and is doing some great work, and I'm excited to share this with you. So my guest today is Raymond Muñoz-Tabares, and he shares his journey passing his FE exam. And again, I think you're going to enjoy this one. If you have questions about taking the FE, questions about taking the PE, or just need help, please reach out to us. We want to help you on your journey to pass this sucker. It's a challenging exam. Email me or join one of our courses. You're going to get lectures, practice problems, exams, and most importantly, support every step of the way. And we want to make sure you are becoming a professional engineer. We need you. So he really is a pioneer in his family in doing this. And I think you're going to enjoy this episode. So apologize for my voice through the whole thing. It's bad, but we get it done. Anyway, thanks for being here. We'll see you inside. All right, Raymond, we're rocking and rolling. Thanks for joining me today on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. I appreciate you joining here and dealing with my voice as well. So it's changing.
Appreciate the welcoming. I hope, feel better soon.
Yeah, my voice. I don't know what's going on there. Too much screaming at the kids, I guess. That does it.
Here in the Northeast, we get a lot of rain. We get winds. So it's kind of like a mix of early spring, kind of like, end of winter.
Yeah. Natural humidifier.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for jumping on. I know we connected. You're a student of our courses. We're excited about that. You recently crushed your FE exam. So we wanted to talk about that and your journey. But before we kind of head there, why don't you describe your own background into engineering itself? How did you find yourself into this world of civil engineering, and kind of talk about maybe your journey in taking the FE?
Sure. So, my background is, my ethnicity is Hispanic. I came as an immigrant when I was 10, with no English. And so I, kind of learned along the years, and I graduated high school. I went to a technical high school. So trying to get into engineering was a bit of a challenge because I didn't have all the credits like the, algebra and the pre-calculus classes that they teach you at junior and senior levels. So I ran into that problem. And so when I began the program at the community college, because ultimately I wanted to, transfer to a 4-year university so I can get the bachelor's degree, I had to kind of start from the zero, line. It was hard at the beginning.
Could I ask you a question related to that? I myself went to a community college too when I started my journey, and I thought that was like really good. It's more affordable. I loved the professors that I had. I thought they taught the material better, and it was like more intimate classes, so you get questions answered a little better. So I'm just curious, like you started at a junior college, community college. What was your experience like there?
Oof. I had a few friends, maybe like a really good, I made about one good friend, but the community college was not like how the university was like. Community college was more like you just kind of go to class and effort. You go to night classes, whereas the university was, a little bit more, freedom. You had more freedom over your time, and then you can just kind of, do other activities. Most classes were in the morning, but I found passing classes easier at the university level than at the community college level. So I don't know if it had to do anything with the education of the professors or like their background on professors. Um, their method of teaching was more effective at the university kind of level. But I mean, regardless, I like both of them. I just kind of took my core classes, like my maths and sciences and my chems as a junior and sophomore, and then I kind of worked my way into the discipline of engineering classes at the University of Rhode Island. There I graduated in 2021. And then I started my first job working for um, Leidos Engineering, which is a national company, and they do a lot of different things. But what I was mostly doing was transmission lines, high voltage transmission line inventories. And
That's what I do.
yeah.
Well, a little bit.
What drove me into engineering was mostly the compensation aspect of it, and I think the environment of it as well. So, I wanted to make good income. I wanted to have a good salary for, the purpose of raising a family. Yep. So I guess engineers made, good income, and I like, I wanted to do architecture at the beginning, but due to the life circumstances, I ended up just the University of Rhode Island didn't offer that discipline, so I chose civil engineering because my uncles did a lot of construction, so I kind of felt a little bit inspired by them, and I figured why not go into construction field.
Now they're going to come to you eventually to get their stuff stamped. Well, that's awesome. So while you were in school, were you required to pass your FE while you were in school to graduate, or did you take it after school?
Yeah, no, they don't require you to pass, but they require you to take it at least. So you have to take it in order to graduate. Yeah,
And so you took it and you didn't pass that round?
I did not. Um, I was very inexperienced when I first went in. I, totally lost track of time as I was taking it. I didn't even get to like the transportation section, or I think it's a transportation section, one of the last sections on the exam. And so I retook it a second time, and that didn't work out. Took me about half a dozen times to conquer the EIT. So, eventually I passed it, but
Well, we're going to dive into that.
I think it was a good 3 years of constantly, studying and retaking. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it was that wasn't just. I think it was more like the testing method or the approach to taking the test. I found myself burning out of time too soon when I could have answered easy questions. So
Right.
at some point, I decided to change my strategy around and, just kind of do what I could first and take the harder questions at the end.
Time management's a big deal on the exam, and I'm sure you realize that after you take it a few times that you got to get through this thing, or else you're going to get those ones you missed, or you're going to guess on a bunch, and we don't, it's not ideal to guess on a bunch of the exam.
Right.
So, well, that's interesting. So, what advice would you have for someone that they're currently in your shoes? They're repeating the exam and struggling a little bit to get over the hump of passing. What advice would you tell them?
So yeah, when taking the exam, don't drink a lot of, I guess on exam day, don't drink too much fluid because, you're going to be sitting and you may have to go to the bathroom to, pee pee, and you just kind of like don't have that,
Less bathroom.
luxury to go to the bathroom for 3 minutes at least. So I that's what I did in the morning. I just took a, small amount of liquid. Um, you know, just kind of go there with the positive mentality. It's not the end of the world. As It's just kind of like, you just trying to, get the certification. That's really it. It doesn't make you a better person, or if you know, don't, it doesn't make you a bad person if you don't pass. So it
A lot of
definitely,
it's just learning like the hoops, right? It's learning
yeah,
how they ask the questions, the feel and the flavor of those things.
right.
And that
And
comes with
definitely,
experience.
yeah, like do the easy questions first, like the one step questions, like for example, answering the fill in the blank, um, just like the easy questions, and then just flag as you're going along. I think that was kind of like my approach to it. When studying, I would always study during the hours that the test was going to be taken at, like from in the morning hours, for example. Like I prefer not to study at night or in the afternoons. I always decided to study in the morning. And yeah, just kind of, just going there with the, and not all the questions on the exams are going to be on the sample exams are going to be on tests. There's going to be about 20% of them that you've never seen. So, when uh, your test taking skills have to kick in, and then you eliminate two answers, and you just kind of, pick the best one. Um,
Start using good engineering judgment at that point.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And I would only recommend taking the test if you're passing the sample test. Like if you're not getting more than 70 on the sample test or the mock-up test, I wouldn't go there and try to pass the real test.
Could you outline a couple things for us? One, what was your study desk? What was your study situation look like? And how long of a runway did you give yourself? I know you took it multiple times, but like, how long did you typically give yourself to study before you took it, the real deal?
Right. So, I would study at home, in my bedroom, um, most after work sometimes, or in the weekends. So the environment was here at home. I was very constant with studying. So like, I dove into the material maybe 3 to 4 times a week, at my own pace, just kind of exploring and doing problems and trying to learn the calculator, figuring out the shortcuts, because that's big. If you know how to use your calculator and they give you like a regression equation analysis that you got to do, that calculator is so handy. So using the calculator was key. Um, and then, I scheduled the test about 3 months or a quarter ahead of time. And that's when I, really got serious with it, and, just kind of dedicated a lot of time towards it.
That's super helpful for people when they're thinking about, you know, I'm making a plan. Where should I study? What works for me? And how much of a runway you had. So I know you ended up taking our course, but how did you discover Civil Engineering Academy, and like how did it help you?
Um, I think it was just like a Google search. I started with just a Google search, and, I had came across a few different ones, but I liked Civil Engineering Academy because the price was reasonable. It was it was reasonable, and I that was probably the best that I liked. It was, a good deal.
Biggest bang for your buck, huh?
I Yes,
That
and in addition to not only, getting all the perks that come with it, I was actually given like extra time. Like I had access to it all along, even though I went
right.
past 6 months. So I was able to kind of, restudy and refreshen all the problems and the topics. I remember a lot of the videos from like Jason.
Our
Uh,
practice problems.
yeah, I think it was Jason and
We got Cody Sims, Jason's in there, me, some
yeah,
Mark.
yeah,
We
yeah,
got a bunch of team members in there.
yeah. Yeah, they were. Now they sound familiar. All those names sound really familiar.
So I'm curious, the course came with some practice exams, but what advice would you give to someone to take practice exams? How did you approach those?
Um, Practice exams. So I network with other colleagues of mine. at work that had taken the exam, and they gave me tips as far as what tools had to use to kind of um, be able to pass it. And I thought, I kind of, one of them recommended I use Coursera, so I went on Coursera, and um, there were some tutorials on there, so I got a taste of their approach of teaching the material. So I it was a little bit of different taste, I guess, because I was doing your content all along, and then I got to see a little bit of them, so that gave me a little bit of different taste, just to kind of change the what do you call that, the just the rhythm a little bit, so I used Coursera for some time. Would you repeat the question one more time? I
It
kind of
doesn't hurt that Coursera is also free. They have a free course on there for FE stuff, so it's a really good base. Actually, it's a resource we recommend if people are looking for free resources. You can find that. We actually list that on our website too. So, but yeah, my question is like, how did you tackle practice exams? Did you take them like the real deal? You mentioned that you should be scoring like a 70% in order to feel confident going into the real exam. But like, did you take it like a real exam? Did you split it up? Did you sit down for 6 hours? How did you do that?
yes, I did halves, so I would do half for, and kind of time myself for the non-computerized exams, like the sample ones. And sometimes the answer wouldn't make sense, and so I would just kind of make a note out of it. I started building like these indexes, or like these sheets with like formulas, and I had like a stack of sheets with formulas. I had um, my
So
work.
you were like keeping your own notes as to like what you should be learning. That's great. That's actually a great tip for people preparing to write it down.
Yeah, keep the formulas. I wrote the formulas that I saw were coming up the most during the exams. Um, and per discipline, so like all the statics formulas were in one side, and all the dynamics formulas on the other, and so on and so forth. I would just kind of group them. Um, and when I put the real exams, or actually when I took the mock-up exams, I would kind of use those formulas that were also on the engineering review manual, fundamentals of engineering handbook. That's where all the formulas were. So I kept seeing them popping over and over and over again, and I was just like, this is important. I have to like make note of this. I can't just go by and not make note. And there are some coefficients that kind of vary, and there are rules to the formulas. So keeping an inventory of like all different scenarios that could be applied to that one formula kind of helped get to the right answer.
That's really good advice. I think it's super helpful when you actually write stuff down because it helps us remember it better. And then if you're using the handbook with it, you can go find that in there and make sure you know exactly where that stuff is. I think is super helpful. I'm curious, but everyone that takes these either FE or PE and they take it multiple times, like I'm curious what your confidence level was like before you joined our course versus when you went into it after taking a course. Like was your confidence level any different when you left the exam or even before it? Could you describe a little bit of that?
Um, so after I passed, I did feel a bit more included. I felt like I belonged to a society. Like like, all right, I'm serious about this. Like
You're nice, man.
yeah.
You're an EIT.
So I felt very encouraged by my peers, and so that gave me a level up that I needed, because I had crashed so many times before. So I really needed that encouragement and that motivation. So it definitely did uh, raise my confidence. Um, Going into it at the beginning was kind of like a trial and error. Like I just want to go in and see what it's like, take it, and from what people were talking about in my senior class, that it wasn't very easy. So I was just in it for taking, just kind of getting a taste of it. So, yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like confidence got a little better. You had good encouragement from your, coworkers, and it sounds like even taking a course does help boost your confidence a little bit. Do you have any other tips that you would like to share for anyone preparing for the FE exam? Is there any surprises? Maybe there's a tip mentally or a tip strategically, going into taking this stuff. What would you say to the next guy taking this?
Mm, Definitely look at the result, the diagnostics that they give you when you're taking the exams. The NCEE kind of gives you a diagnostic, and that way you know what you're doing good at and what needs to be, you know, emphasized. So I would always do like a plot graph and kind of get, an idea of what was good, what was okay, and what needed to be worked on.
Take me through the day that you found out your results. What was that day like? What were you
Crazy.
doing? How
That
did
was
it go?
so that was the best day of my life. I really felt like a prince when I when I saw that I passed. It was, I had taken a test on a Saturday. I took it on a Saturday because I wanted to just gonna drive in and have like a calm commute. And I was checking my email, and Tuesday was very prompt email that I got. So I'm like, okay, probably why is it so soon? It's supposed to be 7 days. So I opened it, and to my surprise, I passed, and I was at work at the moment, sitting at my workstation. It must have been like 8 o'clock in the morning. So when I saw the results, I got a little bit of a goosebump, and I just kind of took a deep breath. Didn't really have like a jolt of energy, and I was just kind of like, wow, I accomplished something. And then I walked to my supervisor and I relayed the news to him. He was pretty happy. He talked to me for a few minutes. Um, then later on, I called my parents like around lunchtime and kind of share the news, and they're congratulating me, saying, "Bravo, you finally you got it done." But then uh, after work, I walked back to my car, and we had plans of going out to dinner, but somebody had smashed into my car.
Oh no.
Almost. So someone hit and ran, didn't even know, and my car was just kind of like my fender was all smashed. There was pieces of taillight on the ground, so I decided to just drive home. And kind of a bit of a shock day for me. So
Those guys were not going to ruin your day.
yeah, it was a bit of a shock. And I just had really good night's sleep. I think I was pretty proud of myself that day.
That's awesome. Well, we're proud of you too. So, congratulations on passing your FE. It's a huge milestone. Next up, obviously, is PE, which is definitely doable. And many people have said the PE is easier than the FE. So, hopefully, you put your best foot forward in that arena and get it knocked out. I'm curious if you were to recommend someone to take the CEA course, what would you tell them is a huge benefit of joining a course like that?
Let's see. So the civil engineering course, I guess it's real. Like you get that one-on-one with you. They're very um responsive when it comes to answering questions. Um, and I think the website is easy to navigate. So it's it's basically you kind of teach yourself, but you got the support there if you need it. So it all depends how much effort you put into it. But yeah, I think it's a good deal. You definitely could pass if you do all the problems and take the tests. And that's what I would say.
Perfect. Well, yeah, we want to help you on that journey. So if you need help, definitely check us out. civilengineeringacademy.com will help you. But Raymond, thanks for jumping on the podcast. Thanks for sharing your experiences, and can't wait till you pass the PE.
Yeah, cross fingers. That's my next milestone.
Sounds good.
I'll give it a shot and definitely report my findings.
Excellent. You'll be back on talking to us again.
I hope so.
Thanks, Raymond. We'll talk to you maybe in a future episode.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Feel better.